I spent this entire month talking about social engineering attacks, talking about the dangers of them, talking about what they are, what types there are. I can't possibly cover every attack, but have you ever seen one be successful in a business? Have you ever seen what happens? If not, this is the video for you. So let's talk about what happens when social engineering is successful against your company and leads to a business email compromise. All right, I'm Chris Burns from Techie Gurus. I'm sure you know that by now. If not, I guess it's my fault I don't advertise enough. But this is a phishing email. This is how a lot of threat actors and hackers get into your network. So let's kind of break this down. This is a poster we actually send out. We have a ransomware kit that we actually send out that has a bunch of this stuff in there. If you're interested in getting one, let us know. We can have that conversation. We send it out to our customers, but let's look at this from the perspective of an end user, right? So we get this email. Okay, it looks like it's trying to get me to pay an invoice. That's odd. I don't remember having an invoice. So let's look at what part of the email you need to look at, right? So if we look at the email address, security@onmicrosoft.com, that looks kind of weird. If you look at it and you see on Microsoft.com, that's actually the default domain that anybody could, when they register a 365 account, a Microsoft 365 account, you get a .onmicrosoft.com domain. Now, you can bring your own domain in, but by default, you get that. So that's kind of weird. Your Office 365 account was about to be deleted. Okay, well, that's urgency, so that's another red flag. It's a PDF invoice. Interesting. Okay. A lot of times PDFs, when you get an invoice with a PDF, you got to be kind of hesitant with it. You got to make sure that you know what you're clicking on. So, dear customer, okay, so it didn't say your name, which is weird again, too generic. To pay your invoice now, there's the urgency again. So you got to sign in to pay it, right? And then to customize what's included. Okay, well, there's a spelling mistake. It's poor grammar. They didn't properly use the contraction. So that's kind of a red flag. That's not always the case, though. A lot of times now they're getting better with the way that they send out emails where there's not spelling mistakes. So we can't just rely on poor grammar to be an indicator of phishing or spam. We gotta make sure that we actually follow through. Now, when you mouse over a link and it shows an IP address, it does not show a name, it does not show Microsoft.com, it does not show accounts.microsoft.com or something like that, that is a red flag. This means that server has been compromised in a way that they're going to use whatever you click here. It could be to steal your Microsoft 365 credentials. It could be to get you to launch some malware, whatever. But this is what it looks like. So what we want to do as a company is kind of go down here and say, okay, we want to show this to our users, right? So give them the seven tips that you see on the screen right now. You can pause this, you can take screenshots. Again, this is a poster that we have. But we want to go through all of these with our end users and show them, our employees, show them what it looks like. And then at the very least, if they're still cautious, talk to your IT, talk to somebody that knows something about security, right? It could be your security team. If you're a bigger company, maybe you have a security team, maybe you have an IT team internally. If not, talk to a company like ours. Talk to whoever you have today. If maybe it's a person, that's fine. Just make sure that your users actually submit that to the person to look at. So let's move on to what it looks like when this fails and an account gets taken over. All right, so I'll give you a little backstory on this. This is a customer who chose not to have multi-factor authentication on their accounts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down what a business email compromise looks like, what happened in this case, and show you details based on that. Now, I've redacted the important information, the critical information that's going to identify this company, this person, everything like that. But I want to show you because I feel like we need to understand what this looks like because this can happen to any business. Now, this was a small thing. This is one person's paycheck. This is something that can be much larger. It could be wire fraud. It drains your entire operating bank account. This really happened. And you can see there the date is February 16th, 2022. This just happened about a month ago. So let's kind of break it down. So what happened here is this person We're going to call her Susan. Susan's bank account her Microsoft 365 account got compromised. And it got compromised because we don't have multi-factor authentication on. Her password wasn't that good. And somebody got access to it, and we'll break down how that, what it looks like. But what happened is they got this. They wrote this lovely email because they were in her email, looks like, for about 4 days. And they wrote this email and sent it to the HR person. Now, they wrote it with nearly perfect grammar. This sounds exactly like the person that owns this account. That's terrifying. So if you go down here and where it says account name, like towards the middle, it was her name. It was a bank, which is a real bank. The routing number really leads to that bank and that account and an account number. So as you can also see, there's a voided check. That's new. That's pretty interesting that they actually went that far. So what you can do is you look at this, you're like, okay, that looks suspicious. So now you look at the voided check. Now this image is a little downgraded because of the way that we have to take it, but this actually looks like a check. There's actually the Easy Shield check fraud protection. There was the bank account and routing matched exactly what was sent before. The address was the person's address. The thing is, the bank address was a liquor store. So that was probably the only thing that if somebody in HR actually looked at, the address was close to that person's house. However, it was a liquor store, which is kind of funny and odd. They also made a check number that wasn't low. They made it like they've been writing checks on this account for a long time. So that didn't really set off red flags with HR. Now, it should have. They shouldn't allow this to happen inside the business, but they did. So what happened is this person's, the HR person took this and responded to the email, as you can see there. And they said, okay, I'll get this taken care of tomorrow. And they did. They changed the bank account information on their direct deposit. So here's where it gets interesting. The person got a text message from the payroll company that their bank account information had been changed, and they ignored it. And by ignoring that, that was the only fail-safe in place here, and that's what led to the money being gone. Now, her entire paycheck was gone, so the company had to eat this. So what's odd about the situation is the HR person was actually far more concerned about what happened than the person that actually happened to. So we got involved. We gave them logs, and if you kind of break this down, what you can see is when the person got access, when the hacker or threat actor got access to their email, what they did is they set up these rules. And these rules said, hey, if an email with a subject or body line of new direct deposit comes back in, a reply with new direct deposit information, or direct deposit, or payroll, or pay stub, or the first part of the bank, or the full bank name, we're going to move this to a folder called infected items. So the user never sees it in their inbox. Now, if this message was received from, and this is the HR person's name and email address, mark it as read and move the message to infected items. These rules existed. They were created inside of Outlook web app, and this is why the user never saw the emails. This is the logging. So we hid the person's name. They have some IPs. You can see they were logging in from New Jersey, Los Angeles, and New York. They're in Michigan. So this was, you can see a failure here, but once you see successes, this was the second part. This is when the attack was actually launched. If you look back a few days earlier, it was actually from Amsterdam, and where the first successful one was. So they got logged in from Amsterdam. Now, I don't think Microsoft allowed the login, so then they came into the United States. And that's one of the fallacies that exist today, is if you just block things from outside the country, this can't happen. Well, no, they'll figure out it's successful because they'll get successful credentials, but then they'll just tunnel into the United States to make sure it comes from the United States and gets around that conditional access rule that you make. So blocking things from outside the country doesn't work. It hasn't in a couple of years. All right, so that was a short breakdown of this. This took us a few hours to kind of piece together, talking to the users and things like that. Look, this was terrible. They lost a paycheck. It could have been far worse. It could have been somebody else more prominent in the company losing their paycheck. But at the end of the day, we're having conversations now to enhance our security offering with them, get them on multi-factor authentication because they've learned the lesson. And it's not a cheap lesson to learn, but it was one that wasn't going to bankrupt their company. This isn't always the case. The sad part of social engineering and the way that we think this happened is they either got her to click on a phishing email or they just got lucky and had her password from another breach and they used password spraying and they just got into the account. But the social engineering part of this was 100% when they were socially engineering the HR person. I don't blame her. Don't blame the person because at the end of the day, it looked just like the person that was sending it. They wrote exactly like that person. They had been in that account for days. They knew everything about that person at that point. They had done the business recon and knew who the HR director was at the company. So that's how they knew who to target. And then they'd seen emails between them, so they knew they were friends. So there was already a level of trust there. They just exploited that trust to get a paycheck. Now, what can we do in our business? A couple things. One, train your users. Train your users to understand what a phishing email looks like. Train your users to know what social engineering looks like. Also, number two is look at it from a perspective of process in your business. This should never happen. There needs to be a policy and a process in your business that says you cannot change payroll information like this through an email. Now you can make whatever policy you want or whatever, but like at the very least, maybe say something like, hey, we got to talk in person, or you have to call me on the phone, or I have to call you on the phone. We have to validate that. We have to, make sure that we're doing that. I'm going to call your mobile phone because I have that. Things like that. A secondary level of authentication to do a change like this. Number three is multi-factor authentication will stop this. They logged in through Outlook Web App. Multi-factor authentication would have 100% stopped this. Now, there's other ways to get around that, but that's most of the time an attacker or threat actor is not going to take the time to get around that, especially in this case. And finally, we have to be vigilant with when we report this stuff. If you sense that something's wrong, report it. Report it to the people that are going to help you take care of it. Don't hide behind it. Don't shame people in the company either. Let them report it. This mistake isn't going to get this person fired, and I'm glad because this is a good customer with good heart. But some customers or some prospects or some companies in general would fire the HR person for doing this. It's insane to think that. It's a mistake. We're human. We make mistakes. We need to learn from this. And that's why this video exists. That's why the content that we put out exists. We want to teach people how to operate in a more secure way. To know when you need to get experts involved to help you in your company. Because if this bankrupts this company, there's 60 to 80 employees at any given time, depending on the year, that are employed by this company. What does that mean? What does that mean if they go out of business? What does it mean for those families? The problem is bigger than one person. So we have to look at it from a perspective of top down and come into your business and help you understand the risks and help you put in the controls, be it via technical, so it could be like endpoint detection response, to managing that, to firewalls, to anti-phishing things, but it could be just helping you with process. Looking at the processes you have in your business and making tweaks to that. This could have been stopped a number of ways. So I hope this was helpful. Again, if you have any kind of questions, comment down below. You can always reach out to us. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. If you want us to help you in your business, you can reach out to us. You can go to techyours.com. You can go on there, fill out a form. We schedule a 15-minute consultation. We can talk to you about it. But just do something. Don't let this be your business. So I hope this was helpful. Again, until next time, stay cyber safe.